Hi guys, it's Miss Labodian doing another reading of Wonder. This is video number 9, so if you've made it this far, awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that you are enjoying it. I'm sure enjoying it, and the more I read, that's my dog behind, that's Zoe. The more I read, the more I enjoy it, so I'm really getting into it, and I hope you are too. So last video, we talked more about Via and just kind of how she's treated at home and what's going on in her life. And basically what's going on in her life isn't really known from her parents because they are really focused on Augie. We see a first account of their mom saying that she's gonna come check in on Via, and she doesn't because she has to check in on Augie. She ends up forgetting about Via. So those are things that happen to Via a lot because of Augie, which is understandable that the parents do worry about Augie, but Via has her own things too, and I think maybe their parents need to realize that. We learned that Via's closest friends, Miranda and Ella, are kind of being a little bit rude to her. They're not really hanging out with her. They're hanging out with each other, but not her, stuff like that. So she's dealing with her own stuff too, and that's kind of where we ended off. The last chapter I read was called Punnett Square, and it basically talked about the odds of her own children, so Via's own future children, carrying the same gene that Augie has, and then Augie's future children carrying the same gene, and it was a very high chance that they would carry the same gene. That doesn't mean they will look like Augie, but there is a chance that they could, and it ended with Via basically saying there's going to be a lot of unborn babies, mine being one. So she's basically saying she will not have kids, and we can kind of use our brains to figure out that that's probably because she doesn't want the chance of her kids ending up like Augie. So it was a very powerful little quote that it ended with, and it shows really what she thinks. And you can comment down below or just think to yourself, but why do you think she thinks so strongly about not having kids? Augie, you know, he's a very smart boy, and there's a lot going for him other than his physical appearance. So why is she so against having kids if there's a chance they could have the gene? What do you think that is? So I will be starting today on page 107, and the title is called Out with the Old. This is still Via's part, so part 2 is Via, so it is still in her point of view. We will be moving on to a new character's point of view in just a couple of chapters, so this video. I won't tell you yet who it is. You can make your guesses if you don't already know. Yeah, so I will get started. So it is called Out with the Old. Miranda and Ella blasted off. They attached themselves to a new crowd designed for high school glory. After a week of painful lunches where all they could do was talk about people that didn't interest me, I decided we needed to make a clean break for it. They asked no questions. I told no lies. We just went our separate ways. I didn't even mind after a while. I stopped going to lunch for about a week though, to make the transition easier. To avoid that fake, oh shoot, there's no room for you at the table, Olivia. It was just easier to go to the library and read. I finished War and Peace in October. It was amazing. People think it's such a hard read, but I really just think it's like a soap opera with lots of characters, people falling in love, fighting for love, dying for love. I want to be in love like that someday. I want my husband to love me the way Prince Andre loved Natasha. I ended up hanging out with a girl named Eleanor, who I'd known from my days at PC22. We've gone to different middle schools though. Eleanor had always been a really smart girl. A little bit of a crybaby back then, but nice. I never realized how funny she was. Not laugh out loud like daddy funny, but she knew how lighthearted I could be. Eleanor, I guess, had always been under the impression that I was very serious, and it turns out she never liked Miranda and Ella. She thought they were stuck up. I gained entry through Eleanor to the smart kids table at lunch. It was a larger group than I'd been accustomed to hanging out with, and a more diverse crowd. It included Eleanor's boyfriend, Kevin, who would definitely become class president someday, a few techie kids, girls like Eleanor, who were members of the yearbook committee and the debate club, and a quiet guy named Justin, who had small round glasses and played the violin. and who I had an instant crush on. When I'd seen Miranda and Ella, who were hanging out with the super popular set, we'd say, hey, what's up, and move on. Occasionally, Miranda would ask me how August was doing, and then say, tell him I said hello. This I never did. Not to spite Miranda, but because August was in his own little world these days. There were times at home that we never even crossed paths. Okay, so coming from that chapter, the part that we just read really stuck out to me. I don't know if it kind of stuck out to you or you made any connections, but it said August was in his own little world. So we already know from the part 1 of the book what August is going through in school. So he's kind of making friends, but he's also being made fun of. He's being stared at a lot. I feel like he almost is in a similar situation as Via. A little bit different, of course, that Via doesn't have all the eyes staring at her and stuff like that, but they're in similar situations in the fact that they're both new to the school and they're both trying to make friends, trying to fit in. But what they don't realize is they have a lot of similarities, but they're not talking about it, so they don't realize how similar they could be. So I feel like if they did talk, they could really learn from one another, sympathize with one another. But Via has no clue that Augie is actually going through a very similar situation as her. Just thought that was an interesting point. Yeah, so the next chapter is called October 31st, and it is on page 109. Grants died the night before Halloween. Since then, every year, it's been 4 years. Even though it's been 4 years, this has always been a sad time of the year for me. For Mom, too, though she doesn't always say it. Instead, she immerses herself in getting August's costume ready, since we all know Halloween is his favorite time of the year. This year was no different. August really wanted to be a Star Wars character called Boba Fett, so Mom looked for a Boba Fett costume in August's size, which strangely enough was out of stock everywhere. She went to every online store, found a few on eBay that were going for outrageous amounts, and finally ended up buying a Jango Fett costume that she had converted into a Boba Fett costume by painting it green. I would say in all, she must have spent 2 weeks working on that stupid costume. And no, I won't mention the fact that Mom has never made any of my costumes, because it really has no bearing on anything at all. The morning of Halloween, I woke up thinking about Grants, which made me really sad and weepy. Dad kept telling me to hurry up and get dressed, which just stressed me out even more, and suddenly I started crying. I just wanted to stay home. So Dad took August to school that morning, and Mom said I could stay home, and the two of us cried together for a while. One thing I knew for sure, however much I missed Grants, Mom must have missed her more. All of those times August was clinging to life after a surgery, all of those rushed trips to the ER, Grants had always been there for Mom. It felt good to cry with Mom. For both of us. At some point, Mom had the idea of our watching The Ghost of Mrs. Murr together, which was one of our all-time favorite black and white movies. I agreed that this was a great idea. I think I probably would have used this weepy session as an opportunity to tell Mom everything that was going on at school with Miranda and Ella, but we were just sitting down in front of the DVD player and the phone rang. It was the nurse from August's school calling to tell Mom that August had the stomachache and should be picked up. So much for the old movies and the mother-daughter bonding. Mom picked August up, and the moment he had come home, he went straight to the bathroom and threw up. Then he went to his bed and pulled the covers over his head. Mom took his temperature, brought him some hot tea, and assumed the August's mom role. Via's mom, who had come out for a little while, was put away. I understood, though. August was in bad shape. Neither of us asked him why he had worn his bleeding scream costume to school instead of the Boba Fett costume Mom had made for him. If it annoyed Mom to see the costume she had worked for 2 weeks tossed on the floor unused, she didn't show it. So that was the end of that chapter. So Via refers to her mom as August's mom or Via's mom, even though we know she is both August and Via's mom. Why does she refer to them as two different people? Who is August's mom and who is Via's mom, and what's the difference? Something to think about. Okay, and then the next chapter is called Trick or Treat, and it is on page 111. August said he wasn't feeling well enough to go trick-or-treating later in the afternoon, which was sad for him because I know how much he loved to go trick-or-treating, especially after it got dark outside. Even though I was well beyond the trick-or-treating stage myself, I usually threw on some mask or other to accompany him up and down the blocks, watching him knocking on people's doors, giddy with excitement. I knew it was the one night a year he could be truly like every other kid. No one knew he was different under a mask. To August, that must have felt absolutely amazing. At 7 o'clock that night, I knocked on his door. "Hey," I said. "Hey," he said back. He wasn't using his PlayStation or reading a comic book. He was just lying in bed, looking at the ceiling. Daisy, as always, was next to him on the bed, her head draped over his legs. The bleeding Scream costume was crumpled on the floor next to the Boba Fett costume. "How's your stomach?" I asked, sitting next to him on the bed. "I'm still nauseous." "You're sure you're not up for the Halloween parade?" "Positive." This surprised me. Usually August was such a trooper about his medical issues, whether it was skateboarding a few days after a surgery or sipping food through a straw when his mouth was practically bolted shut. This was a kid who's gotten more shots, taken more medicine, put up with more procedures by the age of 10 than most people would in their entire lifetime. And he was sidelined from a little nausea? "You want to tell me what's up?" I said, sounding a little like Mom. "No." "Is it school?" "Yes." "Teachers, schoolwork, friends?" He didn't answer. "Did someone say something?" I asked. "People always say something," he answered bitterly. I could tell he was close to crying. "Tell me what happened," I said. And he told me what happened. He had overheard some very mean things some boys were saying about him. He didn't care about what the boys had said. He expected that, but he was hurt when one of the boys was his best friend, Jack Will. I remembered him mentioning Jack a few times over the past few months. I remembered Mom and Dad saying he seemed like a really nice kid, saying they were glad August had already made a friend like that. "Sometimes kids are stupid," I said softly, holding his hand. I'm sure he didn't mean it. "Then why would he say it? He's been pretending to be my friend all along. Tushman probably bribed him with some good grades or something. I bet he was like, 'Hey Jack, if you make friends with a freak, you don't have to take any tests this year.' You know that's not true, and don't call yourself a freak." "Whatever. I wish I'd never gone to school in the first place." "But I thought you were liking it." "I hate it." He was angry all of a sudden, punching his pillow. "I hate it, I hate it, I hate it." He was shrieking at the top of his lungs. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. He was hurt. He was mad. I let him have a few minutes of his fury. Daisy started licking the tears off his face. "Come on, Augie," I said, patting his back gently. "Why don't you put your Jango Fett costume on and—" "It's Boba Fett! Why does everyone mix it up?" "Boba Fett costume," I said, trying to stay calm. I put my arm around his shoulders. "Let's just go to the parade, okay? If I go to the parade, Mom will think I'm feeling better and make me go to school tomorrow." "Mom would never make you go to school," I answered. "Come on, Augie, let's just go. It'll be fun, I promise. And I'll let you have all my candy." He didn't argue. He got out of bed and slowly started pulling on his Boba Fett costume. I helped him adjust the straps and tighten the belt, and by the time he put his helmet on, I could tell he was feeling better. Okay, next chapter is chapter 114, Time to Think. August played up the stomachache the next day so he wouldn't have to go to school. I admit I felt a little bad for Mom, who was genuinely concerned that he had a stomach bug, but I had promised August I wouldn't tell her about the incident at school. By Sunday, he was still determined not to go back to school. "What are you planning on telling Mom and Dad?" I asked him when he told me this. He said I could quit whenever I wanted to. He said this while he was still focused on a comic book he was reading. "But you've never been the kind of kid who quits anything," I said truthfully. "That's not like you." "I'm quitting." "You're going to have to tell Mom and Dad why," I pointed out, pulling the comic book out of his hand so he had to look up at me while we were talking. "Then Mom will call the school and everyone will know about it." "Will Jack get in trouble?" "I would think so." "Good." I have to admit, August was surprising me more and more. He pulled another comic book off his shelf and started reading through it. Augie, I said, are you really going to let a couple of stupid kids keep you from going back to school? I know you've been enjoying it. Don't give them that power over you. Don't give them the satisfaction. They have no idea I even heard them, he explained. No, I know, but Via, it's okay. I know what I'm doing. I've made up my mind. But this is crazy, Augie, I said quickly, pulling the new comic book out of his hand. 2. You have to go back to school. Everyone hates school sometimes. I hate school sometimes. I hate my friends sometimes. That's just life, Augie. You want to be treated normally, right? This is normal. We all have to go to school sometimes, despite the fact that we have bad days, okay? Do people go out of their way to avoid touching you, Via? He answered, which left me momentarily without an answer. Yeah, right, that's what I thought. So don't compare your bad days to mine, okay? Okay, that's fair, I said. But it's not a contest about whose days suck the most, Augie. The point is, we all have to put up with bad days. Now, unless you want to be treated like a baby for the rest of your life, or like a kid with special needs, you have to suck it up and go. He didn't say anything, but I think that last bit was getting to him. You don't have to say a word like those kids, I continued. August, actually, it's so cool that you know what they said, but they don't know that you know what they said, you know? What the heck? You know what I mean. You don't have to talk to them ever again if you don't want, and they'll never know why. See? Or you can pretend to be friends with them, but deep down, inside you're not. Is that what you do with Miranda? He asked. No, I answered quickly, defensively. I never faked my feelings with Miranda. So why are you saying I should? I'm not. I'm just saying you shouldn't let those little jerks get to you. That's all. Like Miranda got to you. Why do you keep bringing Miranda up? I yelled impatiently. I'm trying to talk to you about your friends. Please keep mine out of it. You're not even friends with her anymore. Why does that have to do with what we're talking about? The way Augie was looking at me reminded me of a doll's face. He was just staring at me blankly, with his eyes half closed. She called the other day, he said finally. What? I was stunned. And you didn't tell me? She wasn't calling you, he answered, pulling both comic books out of my hands. She was calling me, just to say hi, to see how I was doing. She didn't even know I was going to a real school now. I can't believe you hadn't told her. She said the two of you don't hang out as much anymore, but she wanted me to know that she'd always love me like a big sister. Double stunned, stung, flabbergasted. No words formed in my mouth. Why didn't you tell me? I said finally. I don't know, he shrugged, opening the first comic book again. Well, I'm telling Mom and Dad about Jack Will if you stop going to school, I answered. Tushman will probably call you in the office and make Jack and those other kids apologize in front of everyone and treat you like a little kid who should be going to a school for kids with special needs. Is that what you want? Because that's what's going to happen. Otherwise, just go back to school and act like nothing happened. Or if you want to confront Jack about it, fine. But either way, if you... Fine, he interrupted. What? Fine, I'll go, he yelled, not loudly. Just stop talking about it. Can I please read my book now? Fine, I answered, turning to leave his room. I thought of something. Did Miranda say anything else about me? He looked up from his comic book and looked right into my eyes. She said to tell you she misses you, quote unquote. I nodded. Thanks, I said casually, too embarrassed to let him see how happy that made me feel. Okay, so that is the end of the chapter, and it's also the end of part 2, which is Via's point of view. So my question is just, what do you think about Via? We learned a lot more about Via in her point of view. What do you think about the character of Via? You can think about it to yourselves, or if you have an account, you can comment and let me know what you think about her. And do you think she was being too harsh to Augie in the end there, saying that she's gonna tell on him and that he should go to a school for special needs? Do you think that that was right of her to say? Do you think that was a little bit harsh? I personally thought it was a little bit harsh toward the end, but she did get him to agree to go back to school. So maybe it was the right thing. I'm not too sure. I will start reading the next part, which is part 3, and it is in the character of Summer. So we know Summer is one of Augie's friends. She's been nothing but nice to him, and she sits with him at lunch. I don't think she has very many classes with him. I think she only has one class with him, but she sits with him at lunch, which is really, really nice because nobody else does. But we don't know very much about Summer besides that, so maybe we'll learn a bit more. And her page starts on 119, and it is chaptered Weird Kids. Some kids have actually come up and asked me why I hang out with the freak so much. These are kids that don't even know him well. If they knew him, they wouldn't call him that. Because he's a nice kid, I always answer, and don't call him that. You're a saint, Summer. Xmina Chin said to me the other day, I couldn't do what you're doing. It's not a big deal, I answered her truthfully. Did Mr. Chushman ask you to be friends with him? Charlotte Cody asked. No, I'm friends with him because I want to be friends with him, I answered. Who knew that my sitting with August Pullman at lunch would be such a big deal? People acted like it was the strangest thing in the world. It's weird how kids can be. I sat with him the first day because I felt sorry for him. That's all. Here he was, this strange-looking kid in a brand new school. No one was talking to him. Everyone was staring at him. All the girls at my table were whispering about him. He wasn't the only new kid at Beecher Prep, but he was the only one that they were talking about. Julian had nicknamed him the Zombie Kid, and that's what everyone was calling him. Did you see the Zombie Kid yet? Stuff like that gets around fast, and August knew it. It's hard enough being the new kid when you have a normal face. Imagine having his face. So I just went over and sat with him. Not a biggie. I wish people would stop trying to turn it into something major. He's just a kid. The weirdest looking kid I've ever seen, yes, but just a kid. Okay, the next chapter is The Plague, and it is on page 120. I do admit August's face takes some getting used to. I've been sitting with him for 2 weeks now, and let's just say he's not the neatest eater in the world. But other than that, he's pretty nice. I should also say that I don't really feel sorry for him anymore. That might have been what made me sit down with him in the first time, but it's not why I keep sitting with him. I keep sitting down with him because he's fun. One of the things I'm not loving about this year is how a lot of the kids are acting like they're too grown up to play things anymore. All they want to do is hang out and talk at recess. And all they talk about is who likes who and who is cute and who isn't cute. August doesn't bother about stuff like that. He likes to play Foursquare at recess, which I love to play too. It was actually because I was playing Foursquare with August that I found out about The Plague. Apparently it's this game that's been going around since the beginning of the year. Anyone who accidentally touches August has only 30 seconds to wash their hands or find hand sanitizer before they catch the plague. I'm not sure what happens if you catch the plague, but nobody's touched August yet. Not directly. How I found out about this is that Maya Markovitz told me that the reason she wouldn't play Foursquare with us at recess is that she doesn't want to catch the plague. I was like, what's the plague? And she told me. I told Maya I thought that was really dumb, and she agreed. But she wouldn't touch a ball that touched August. Not if she could help it. Okay, so that was that chapter. I guess this chapter really just shows us how cruel kids are to him, and how brave he's being, because he knows about a lot of this stuff and he's still going. So that takes a lot of bravery for sure. I will read one more chapter, and it starts on page 21, and it is called The Halloween Party. I was really excited because I got an invitation to Savannah's Halloween party. Savannah is probably the most popular girl in school. All the boys like her. All the girls want to be friends with her. She was the first girl in our grade to actually have a boyfriend. It was some kid who goes to MS 281, and then she dumped him after she started dating Henry Joplin, which makes sense because the two of them totally look like teenagers already. Anyway, even though I'm not in the very popular group, I somehow got invited, which was very cool. When I told Savannah I got her invitation and would be going to her party, she was really nice to me. Though she made sure to tell me she didn't invite a lot of people, so I shouldn't go around bragging to everyone that I got an invite. Maya didn't get invited. For instance, Savannah also made sure to tell me not to wear a costume. It's good she told me that, of course, because I would have gone to a Halloween party in not the unicorn costume I made for the Halloween parade, but the goth girl setup that I'd worn to school. But even that was a no-no for Savannah's party. The only negative about me going to Savannah's party was that now I wouldn't be able to go to the parade in the unicorn costume and it would be wasted. That was kind of a bummer, but okay. Anyway, the first thing that happened when I got to the party was that Savannah greeted me at the door and asked, "Where's your boyfriend, Summer?" I didn't even know what she was talking about. "I guess he doesn't have to wear a mask at Halloween, right?" she added. And then I knew she was talking about August. "He's not my boyfriend," I said. "I know, I'm just kidding." She kissed my cheek. All the girls in her group kissed each other's cheeks now whenever they said hello, and threw my jacket on a coat rack in the hallway. Then she took me by the hand down the stairs to her basement, which is where the party was. I didn't see her parents anywhere. There were about 15 kids. All of them were popular kids from either Savannah's group or Julian's group. I guess they've all kind of merged into one big super group of popular kids now that some of them have started dating each other. I didn't even know there were so many couples. I mean, I knew about Savannah and Henry, but Mina and Miles and Ellie and Amos? Ellie's practically as flat as I am. Anyway, about 5 minutes after I got there, Henry and Savannah were standing next to me, literally hovering over me. "So we want to know why you hang out with the zombie kid so much," asked Henry. "He's not a zombie," I laughed, like they were making a joke. I was smiling, but I didn't feel like smiling. "You know, Summer," said Savannah, "you would be a lot more popular if you didn't hang out with him so much. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Julian likes you. He wants to ask you out." "He does? Do you think he's cute?" Yeah, I guess he's cute." "So you have to choose who you want to hang out with," Savannah said. She was talking to me like a big sister would talk to a little sister. "Everyone likes you, Summer. Everyone thinks that you're really nice and you're really, really pretty. You could totally be a part of our group if you wanted to. And believe me, there are a lot of girls in our grade, who would love that." "I know," I nodded. "Thank you." "You're welcome," she answered. "You want me to tell Julian to come and talk to you?" I looked over to where she was pointing, and I could see Julian looking over at us. I actually need to go to the bathroom." "Where's that?" I went where she pointed, sat down on the side of the bathtub, and called my mom and asked her to pick me up. "Is everything okay?" said Mom. "Yeah, I just don't want to stay," I said. Mom didn't ask any more questions. She said she'd be there in about 10 minutes. "Don't ring the bell," I told her. "Just call me when you're outside." I hung out in the bathroom until Mom called, and then I snuck upstairs without anyone seeing me, got my jacket, and went outside. It was only 9:30. The Halloween parade was still in full swing down Amherst Avenue. Huge crowds everywhere. Everyone was in costume. Skeletons, pirates, princesses, vampires, superheroes, but not one unicorn. Okay, so that is the end of that chapter, and that is the beginning of Summer's Summer's perspective. So far, what do you think about Summer? Is she as great as you originally thought? Is she better? I personally love Summer. I love what she did, and I can't believe that she left the party, even though she had a chance of being in the popular group. It really shows a lot about her character, so I really like her so far. What do you think? Do you think she's going to turn around and end up joining the popular group, or do you think she's going to stick to kind of how she feels and hang out with Augie? What do you think? I hope you're enjoying it so far. That's it for today, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Go hang out outside. It's very nice and warm. We're finally getting some warm weather, which I love, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!